Everybody. I'm Dr. Brett Brimhall. I'm excited that you're here tonight. Actually, I feel blessed to be a part of this group. We're a group of like-minded people. We're all part of a company, LifeVantage, for those of you that have been invited here. And we met through that company, many of us, because we had a common goal, which was we wanted to, one, be healthy, one, other to be healthy. One of the people I talked to about this, the company, because of some of the things I saw in a couple individuals, was my first cousin, who's Dr. Hatch here. Literally, both of our lives have changed because of what my dad learned years and years ago, and what we continue to build upon, which is treating the whole person. And sometimes the things that we learn are through a school of hard knocks. And Dr. Hatch will share a little bit of that with you tonight. But I'm excited, Dr. Hatch, that you're willing to give us your expertise and your time. We do these Wellness Wednesdays every week at this time, and record for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then we do some question answered after we turn the recording off. So every week, especially this month, we're focusing on microbiome and gut health. And so Dr. Hatch, thanks. I know you've been in practice 27 years. I know that I give you a hard time, but I'm very blessed that you're willing to give us of your time and your talent. I know you spend your life helping people's lives change. I know that because of how you were helped at one point in time. So I'm excited to learn from you about gut health and your experience and things that we can use to help everybody. So take it away, please. And although, the little side note for Dr. Hatch, he's got 6 kids and his wife has 7. He's one of them.
So, and that's a good thing. She hangs out with me. Hey, welcome guys. I'm excited to be here tonight. So I've been in a journey all my life of health. Started out as a young, sick kid. I ended up as 6-month-old in the emergency room down in Airback to St. Joe's Hospital, and spent 6 weeks on the fact that, I'm sorry, I have somebody text me, got a little sidetracked there for a minute. Got into real sickness with pneumonia. I was on IV antibiotics for 6 months. Was really, really sick, saved my life. Thank goodness we had antibiotics then, or I would have passed on. Came along, and believe it or not, I ended up being on 6 months worth of antibiotics orally after that. My dad said the only thing that was bad is anytime I could clear the house, anytime something happened like that. So it was kind of crazy. So I suffered with that. So realized from the time I was about as old as I can remember, 2 or 3, I had a lot of digestive problems. I ended up with loose stool. I was sick all the time. I ended up missing a lot of school. I had fevers and chills and just didn't know when things were going to happen. I'd be at school. They actually gave an extra pair of clothes for me to be at school because that's how often things had happened, and it was embarrassing. So I was 7 years old. I'd been going through the traditional medical model, and they wanted to do surgery. And we had my uncle, Dr. John Brimhall, move into a neighboring town, and my mom says, we're going to take him to see Dr. Brimhall. And I was terrified because I love Dr. Haywood, and he said 2 words: he'll kill him for sure. Okay, so I was terrified at 7 years old. I thought my parents would want to eliminate me. And that's what I discovered is I got on the right track of getting healthy and well. We started working my digestive tract way back then, and we did a bunch of things, and all of a sudden my health started restoring. In fact, it got so good I was never sick, which really bummed me out, I'm going to be honest, because then I had to play sick to get out of school. And so that was one of the things. So I'm going to share with you guys my screen here and make sure I can do this. Eileen, you may have to help me. Let me see. All right, here we go. I think I got it. All right, so let me go right here. So when we want to get healthy, we want to listen to our gut. Let's see, why did that not do that? Okay, there it is. I'm going to move, downsize just a little more. So a lot of times when we're sitting here and we're trying to figure out what is it that we need to do, how do I get healthy? I had a patient in the other day, this was a question she asked me, what is it that we don't do that we should be doing because I don't know what to do? How many people do you know out there that are feeling a little bit confused? If there's so much information on the internet, there's so much stuff that's going on and opinions and different things. Realize our medical model has been compartmentalized, if that makes sense. So when we look at a person, they go see their GP, and the GP looks at them and says, you know, we need to send you out to a specialist. We have a gastroenterologist that looks at stomach problems. We have a neurologist that looks at nerve problems. We have an orthopedic that looks at bone and structure problems. So we have become very compartmentalized, and that's one of the things that we're dealing with. So what is it? I'm hoping tonight what I will be able to do in this few minutes is be able to bridge that gap between where we can start taking control of our health. Where is it that we are going to start getting hold of things and getting ourselves well? So I want to be able to share that with you. So I started doing, there's tons and tons of research on gut microbiome. Now, I actually was privileged over 20 years ago, 27 years ago, to be introduced to a gentleman by the name of Doug Grant, who is a nutritionist, and he actually was big on probiotics because he started studying them way back then. So probiotics has always been a big part of my practice, and also prebiotics and digestive enzymes. So there's a lot of stuff when we look at that. So in the last decade, they really started doing a lot of research on this. So this is what I find interesting. While the gastrointestinal tract was once regarded as simple as a digestive organs, new technology have led the science world to wonder about the impact that the gut microbia may have on human health and disease. So the gut microbiome is now becoming known for its role in metabolism, immune defense, and behavior. There's a lot more to that also. So when we start looking at that, now we're starting to look at things. The problem is when this article was in 2016, when it came out, what ends up happening now, we start looking at things. It takes at least 17 to 20 years before that information gets out to the medical doctors and to the other healthcare practitioners out there, because that's how long it takes for them to get the research and everything going. So realize, unless they're pretty proactive, people are not understanding all this, but we see a lot of it come across the actual internet, and then we get confused of what's going on. So basically, what impacts our gut microbiome? Well, first off, the birthing process. You know, birth is really, really important, doing it if we can naturally, because what it does is it creates a stress on our body and upregulates that good gut biome. So those are some different things. How we're fed as an infant, really, really important. Best way is through breastfeeding. That's what we really want to do, because if we're giving things that are not natural from our mom's immune system and from our mothers, then we're not getting those factors. The first year of life is so important for a little baby. Their whole immune system depends upon mama's milk. Okay, so we go through, we can see the other things that happen. I mean, life happens, we get older, we go to the different stages of life. Our geographic, where we live, makes a big, big difference. I came from a town where they had a lot of cancer due to downwinders. And so it was crazy. People were dying of brain cancer. People were dying of lung cancer, breast cancer. So it's crazy. Right now, the average American's on 13 pharmaceuticals on a regular basis. Okay, so we see people coming with tons and tons of pharmaceutical problems. Diets is an impact on it, and stress. We all have stress from exercise, maybe our jobs, maybe just our poor metabolism, whatever it may be. So a lot of stresses are going on. So to understand how the how things start is, I'm going to start with where we begin eating. After we get old enough to start doing things, the first thing we need to look at is our oral probiotics or microbiomes. So when we start looking at this, I mean, all of us go see a dentist. Dr. Brimhall just went to the dentist the other day. He likes him so well, you know, so those are a couple things that we want to look at as we get going. So the starting in the mouth is really, really important. So this is what they say on that second line down there, is that gene annotation in these studies support the association of specific genes or metabolic pathways with oral health and with specific disease processes. So realize that specific disease processes begin the moment we put something in our mouth. Okay, let me show you this chart. This is what I want you to remember from that. Okay, if you look at every tooth right there, there's a relationship with an organ system in that tooth. So when we look at the actual molar 19 and 18, they're related to lungs and large intestines. And so when we're having that issue, we have the lungs and large intestines, we could be having a problem with that. How about the liver with the canine on number 27? So every organ system is associated with a tooth, okay, and our acupuncture system. So once we start that digestive process of chewing and eating those foods, if our oral bacteria are not good, neither is the stuff that's going to get down into us. It's going to take infections and different things back in. So we need to make sure we're having a good oral healthiness. So make sure you're eating good quality foods that's not putting bad bacteria or bad probiotics or prebiotics into your system. All right. So as we go along and we look at things, this is where we start looking at the gut microbiome and what their relationship is to health and disease. Okay, we all are going to age, all right? There's no stopping that. But how we age is going to be a big difference, right? You know, we're all going to be faced with different things in our life. Just because we're eating good, we're doing things right, does not mean that we haven't been exposed to things in our life or have been had certain things that's happened in our life that's created problems. So when we go through the aging process, we can actually end up with things such as cancer, dementia, diabetes, you know, Alzheimer's, heart disease, et cetera, et cetera. Everything goes on there. But our microbiomes can actually influence that aging process, okay? So when we look at those things, it increases age, genetics, hosts of our environment, and our diet. Those all have a factor on that. So when we start looking at it, what's going on at it? We look at those things and we look at certain probiotics or microbiomes can become rove and create inflammatory diseases and bowel diseases, okay? So when we start going through those things, we start looking at how are we helping ourselves be healthy, okay? So unfortunately, my dad had a lot of health issues, and one of the things that we started working with him in his later years, he ended up diagnosed with multiple myeloma cancer, at the worst stage. And they gave him 18 months to live. So one of the things that we first started with him is we started with his diet and started with massive doses of probiotics, digestive enzymes, and we started helping him build his immune system. Now, because we did that, my dad actually lived 5.5 years, okay? And he only had a short window of time in the last few months of his life that he really wasn't functional. He was able to function up to the last 5 weeks of his life, and then things started going down really quickly. I'm grateful for my knowledge that I had of what I needed to do to help build his system. Okay, that's before I got involved in some amazing things that I've been doing, but realize that getting the probiotics in are helping build our immune system. They're helping us build our defense mechanism, but also they are helping us with our building blocks, getting things back into the body, help us fight things off, as well as to reduce inflammation. So it's really, really important when we look at that. Another thing is when we look at the intestinal bacteria and its role in human health and disease. So what we've actually found is manipulation of the intestinal bacteria with prebiotics and with certain foods that we eat and the beneficial bacteria. So if we're doing a prebiotic, everybody should be doing prebiotics like kombucha. There is different prebiotics out there that you can buy that's really beneficial. But when we're doing prebiotics, we're setting the fertilizer or the good soil for those probiotics to grow. If we're not feeding ourselves well, if we're eating a lot of carbohydrates, we're eating a lot of sugar, we're eating my favorite food, ice cream, all the time, what ends up happening is now we end up destroying that good fertilizer that's there for our good bacteria to grow. If we don't have good fertilizer, we don't get good healthy growth of bacteria, and therefore it has a correlation and gives us problems. So such as ulcerative colitis, it can end up giving us autoimmune diseases. You can end up with cancer. We can end up with Alzheimer's. All of these have an impact, and they come through our gut. That's what we're discovering through the research and science that's going on. And it will continue on because people are looking for answers. We right now in the United States live in one of the sickest societies. We have the highest illness rates. We're the wealthiest country, but we still continue that. I was looking for a book that I had today because I started thinking of it. I read it about 25 years ago. It's called The Crazy Makers. And so just kind of share with you, it was a book on our diet and how there's so many processed things that's put into our diet right now that what they do is they actually literally change not only our brain chemistry, but they change our internal environment and create problems like long-term disease processes. So I was really kind of, when I was looking at that, I was saying, wow, that's crazy. I love the book. I actually read it 20 years ago. I still carry it on my shelf. I couldn't find it today at my office, but I was thinking that is something we need to really start with first. If we're coming in and helping our body, we need to change our diet. We need to go to a vegan diet as much as we can. And we need to turn around and do the things that's going to help build our system up so we'll have good fertilizer, okay? And then we need to also come in and then start taking good probiotics to help us build our system. By doing that, now we're building an immune system that's going to help protect us against those things. A few years ago, my wife had some health issues and some problems, ended up with cancer. And one of the things that she started doing is juicing, okay? She's sharing that with her doctor. And one of the things that I remember her doctor telling her is, you cannot juice. And my wife says, I can't juice. Why can't I juice? And she says, well, it'll interfere with our treatments that we're doing. And my wife says, well, it's fruits and vegetables, things that I need to be taken into my body anyway. And she sat there for a minute, and the doctor says, well, and she says, well, you want me to go eat McDonald's and all these other things, but why can't I do healthy stuff? She says, well, I don't want you doing grapefruit. That was the only fruit that she didn't want her doing. My wife says, I'm not juicing with that anyway. So we went on. My wife never missed a day of going to church on a Sunday during her whole treatment process. She went through flying colors, and now we're over 10 years out, and we've been cancer free. A lot of that's because of the health choices that she made, okay, and her strong will to make sure she was doing the things she wanted to do. So I want to go into a couple other things that's really, really important, and I want to talk about these NAD, which is basically SERTUINS, which is a group of SERTUINS. So when we look at this, SERTUINS are the group of that NAD connection. And the factor of that, when we start taking that, we actually help increase our overall ability to produce more good bacteria through this, okay? So having good probiotics, using good SERTUINS and good NAD into our body, we upregulate that. So it's amazing when we get in there. We know that lactobacillus is increased from that, as well as some gram-positive bacteria that come in, and that helps our SERTUIN levels function better. SERTUIN actually increases our longevity and helps us feel better. So when we can actually come in and start helping that, we can actually now start helping us fight more and help our bodies build up a defense against disease processes. And that's what we're trying to do here, is how do we help ourselves become well? You know, the research has pointed to that. The last thing I want to talk about is oxidative stress and our gut bacteria. So when we're having a lot of oxidative stress, our gut bacteria gets hammered really, really bad. And so when we have that, it increases our pathogenic organisms to kick up. So we end up with more things like bacterial infections. We end up with things like diarrhea, constipation. We end up with bloatiness. We don't feel well. They can lead to even further things that are highlighted here, such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and strokes and brain injuries. So those things all have something to do with that. The oxidative stress has to deal with that. But when our gut bacteria is out of balance, those microbiomes, it will actually increase those neurological processes. So that's a couple things that we end up dealing with when we're dealing with those things. So what we need to do is ensure that our gut is getting healthy through proper approaches. So things that I want you to remember to do is, one, you need to start eating a diet that's as good as you can, that's vegan, to help you start building a good, healthy system. Okay, we need those building blocks out there. We also need to give our body, with a vegan diet and with some things that we're dealing with, what we can actually do is give our body the probiotics that it needs. Okay, so those are a couple things that we can do as we come through, as we can help our probiotics start being healthier and stronger. So as we go along, important things that we need to do in our diet is have good probiotics, which is going to help our overall immune system, but it's also going to help our overall wellness and reduce our oxidative stress. So when that's all reduced, now our system starts working better. So that's what we're dealing with right now. So realize that when we go through this, we need to just be taking good probiotics. We need to be taking good factors into our prebiotics, and then we need to do some good stress-free exercise also. I want to implement there, walking. So I'll turn it back to you, Dr. Brimhall.
Well, Dr. Hatch, that's awesome. Like, there's so much there. Like, to summarize, like, our gut function is critical for us to live, survive, and succeed. And if it's not functioning well, it makes every system worse. And so, guys, we appreciate being on a call. We're actually going to go to some question and answer in a second. But every week, next week, we'll focus on microbiome. We've got actually another special guest on us that you guys heard before, Suzanne Barker, who's a phenomenal nutritionist that'll talk to us next week. And utilize these things, and these recordings will be there for you in the future. But just kind of keep an eye on that and watch for information in the biohack body and stuff. And we look forward to seeing you guys every week. So